Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome to the World of Money Town Hall. We are super duper excited to have you here with us today, wherever you're calling from around the world. Go ahead and drop your name and where you're calling from in the chat. Let us know so we can shout you out. My name is Roman Murphy, and I am one of the homeroom teachers here at the World of Money for our online course. If you are not familiar with it, we are a organization that focuses on financial literacy, financial education, and you can check out all the information on worldofmoney.org. We'll get into a little bit of that later. However, my name, again, is Roman Murphy, and I am a certified financial educator. I have a degree in business from the University of Maryland, College Park. Once I received that degree, I started teaching high school science, actually, in Atlanta, Georgia. I was young, fresh out of college, spent about 4 years teaching in the high school setting when I realized, I wanted to quote unquote live my best life, but I didn't know how to do that. So I started on this journey of self-discovery and figuring out what this thing called personal finance really is. Like I said, it's been a journey. It's been a science experiment for sure, but I've learned a lot over the years from my research, my studies, from people that I've met and studied. But most of my education has come from firsthand experience, whether it be my mistakes or my successes. So hopefully we can translate a lot of the basics to you here today, as well as through the World of Money course. That's a little bit about me. I also have my co-host here on the line with us, Sienna. What's up?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I am so excited to be here with you for our second ever World of Money Town Hall. I'm glad to see that we have some returners and also some new faces on the line with us today. And I really couldn't be more excited to be in this financial education community with you all. I am a World of Money veteran at this point. I have been involved with World of Money for the past 10 years, first as a student, later as a classroom leader and ambassador for World of Money, and then also as a youth financial education board member. So World of Money is an incredible organization that is very near and dear to my heart and has been involved with so many different stages of my life, coming from 12 years old, figuring out and navigating high school, and then also on to college. I recently graduated in May of 2020 from Barnard College in New York City, where I studied economics. And now I'm in that stage of life where I'm figuring out how to apply all of this financial knowledge to my own life. Everything that we're covering in World of Money Online, from budgeting to investing to paying yourself first, are the foundation for what's helping me navigate this next stage of my life. So I'm really excited to be able to spend this time with everyone on the line, be able to help answer and field questions, and also just engage in this very important conversation, because I'll take it from firsthand experience, it's very relevant. And it's the stage of my life that I'm going through now. So I can't think of a better way to be spending my Saturday morning. Ready to jump into it, Roman?
Let's do it. I just wanted to shout out Q from Sudan. Thank you so much for joining us here on the line. Remember to let us know where you're calling from in the chat if you haven't already. And we're going to jump right on into it. Like Sienna said, we have a very special guest with us today, and we're going to bring him on the line in just a few moments. But before we get there, I really just wanted to have a conversation about the importance of financial education. Like, really, no matter what you want to do in your life, finance, like you saw in the video, is going to be in the mix. You have to be able to pay your bills, and you have to be able to buy the things that you want. And you want to be able to do that in a sustainable way. You want to be able to do that without any stress, without thinking about how much money is in your bank account. You also want to leave a legacy for your family. You want to build generational wealth. Or, I won't say you want to, but I know I want to. What about you, C?
take it one step further. I don't just want to, I'm determined to make all of those things possible. I think the language that we use when we talk about those visions and aspirations, especially when it comes to financial education and the way that we see ourselves, has to be in the language of affirmation. I am determined to make these things happen, be it your educational goals, your professional goals, entrepreneurship. You have to kind of bring a little bit more action behind it, because we, in our World of Money course throughout the week, we talked about the difference between wants versus needs. And I don't just want these things, I need these things to happen, because I know that I have my sights set on a certain lifestyle for myself, for my family, and generational wealth is not just a goal, it's definitely the destination. So I hope that that's just one way that we can continue to shift the way that we talk about financial education and financial access globally, because we have to talk about it like it's already here. It's upon us. The journey starts today.
I love that. I'm interested. Who else on the line with us today wants to build generational wealth? Or like Sienna said, doesn't just want to, they need to build generational wealth. If that's you, say, that's me in the chat. That's me. Let us know that you're on the same page with us. Like at this point, you have no other option. Building wealth and building a strong financial education is your only option. Let us know if that's you in the chat. Now, Sienna, you said that you are a World of Money veteran. Can you tell us just quickly a little bit about your experience?
Absolutely. So I came to World of Money when I was 11 years old. It feels like a long time ago now, but at the time, I just kind of wanted to tag along with my brothers who were also going through the World of Money, get to learn what they learned and hopefully do it even just a little bit better. And that's kind of when my interest first came, just being able to really have my eyes open to what is financial education, what are all of these different topics that people on Wall Street are talking about. And I think there's nothing better than having that knowledge and information transferred directly from the source. So I think World of Money does a great thing by building a community that's not just of young people who are curious, but also of financial professionals, people who are living their lives and working in these industries that recognize the value of the work that they do and then want to impart that knowledge on the community, because it is definitely a big game changer when you start to think about these things from a really young age. So I think my journey has been one of continuous curiosity, trying to learn as much as you can about these industries and spaces, and then also trying to have that familiarity and comfort to try things out, test things out, understanding what is the rule of 72 and compound interest, understanding what investing looks like. That way you can do those things and be an active participant as early as possible. Because the one thing that we learn about in financial education is that the sooner you start, the better it is for you. If you invest $1 today, it'll grow a lot more for you than if you wait 10 years to start investing. So the time is definitely now.
I love how you mentioned community. And we've built a beautiful community here at the World of Money. We have a lot of our moguls actually on the line with us today. I see Ryan and Sarah Beck. I see Q. I see Xavier. And again, community is so important, especially when you are, I would say, first generational entrepreneur or person seeking financial education, meaning you didn't necessarily learn financial education at home. You are determined to learn that information, however old you are, wherever, whatever stage you are at your life, because you know that there's a need. And again, the community is definitely an important factor in your education. So if you are interested in joining this community, make sure you visit worldofmoney.org and join our family. I know that we have other attendees watching on other social media platforms, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter. Thank you so much for being with us today. Make sure to shout yourself out in the chat. Let us know where you're calling from, and let us know if you're determined to build financial wealth like us. All right, we are preparing to bring on our interviewee today. Super excited to have him here with us. But before we get into the interview, we want to show you another quick video that is going to pretty much lay the foundation for the conversation that we're going to have in our interview today, as well as show you what you can look forward to in the World of Money course if you have not enjoyed that experience already. So as we prepare that video for you, remember to shout yourself out in the chat. I see that we have our special guest on the line. Like I said, we're going to get him on in here in just a few minutes, but take time to watch this video.
Sorry about that, everyone. We're going to get that video restarted again for you with the audio. Just bear with us.
Retail offices and manufacturing. Do you know anywhere in the world where land is being added onto the planet Earth? I have never heard anyone say, wow, the Earth is growing in size. Hey, I'm JR, and I'm a World of Money mogul. Look out of your window. Do you see all of the land and buildings? That is called real estate or property. Real estate plays an important role in the economy of all countries. Residential real estate provides housing for families. It's the greatest source of wealth and savings for many Americans. Real estate is the property, land, building, the air above the land, and underground. It's all real estate. Commercial real estate, which includes apartment buildings, creates jobs, and spaces for retail, offices, and manufacturing. Real estate business and investment provide a source of revenue for millions of people. So we can purchase or invest in real estate. It is important for me and you to learn the types of real estate, the difference between renting and owning real estate, and the pros and cons of renting versus owning. And we should also know what is a lease, a mortgage, equity, real estate investing, and exciting careers in real estate. Remember the World of Money motto: learn, earn, save, invest, and donate. I'm JR. See you later.
All right, everyone, that was an awesome video, and it perfectly tees up the incredible speaker that we are welcoming to World of Money Online, our second community town hall, global town hall. So without further ado, we would love to intro with this very modest bio, I might add, Philip Michael. He is a real estate entrepreneur, investor, and best-selling author of Real Estate Wealth Hacking: How to 10 Times Your Net Worth in 18 Months. He's also the CEO of NYCE and founder of wealthlab.co, a fast-growing money and real estate source for millennials.
Super excited to have Phil today. He is on a wealth mission to create 100 million millionaires. And he has joined us today to tell us about that mission and answer your questions. So any questions you have, make sure you put them in the chat. Without further ado, welcome, Phil. Welcome to the World of Money.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited. Excited to be here.
We have to jump straight into it, Phil. Honestly, I think that was a modest bio. For me, we have to understand that no entrepreneur achieves overnight success. We have to tell the people the truth, especially someone like you. So with zero support and not that much capital, tell us a little bit about your journey to where you've gotten today.
I do want to make a slight correction. It's not 100 million millionaires. It's 100,000 millionaires. So I would like to have it be 100 million and perhaps down the road. But first things first. Now, in terms of getting to where we are, it's really just a matter of I was in New York. I came to New York and I realized that the people of influence, and this goes back to that awesome video that we just watched. The people of influence own real estate. The pillar of every billionaire fortune comes from real estate. Even a guy like Jeff Bezos from Amazon. You look at his business that drives a lot of his wealth, but a large portion of his business is real estate, meaning warehouses. They're going out buying millions of square feet of real estate so they can process their orders quicker. It's just such a vital component of everything we do. But I noticed that, and I realized in order for me to set myself up for the future and future generations, that's somewhere I needed to be. So I just made that active, conscious decision. At the time, I was making $500 a week, and which is a far cry from what you need to own high rises, you know. But you just start with that and saving up. You do one property. Start with a property with 3 apartments in it, 3-family property in Jersey City, and because with the FHA backed mortgage, you only have to put 3.5% down. So that's where I started. Learn everything from there and just embrace the grunt work in the process and not being too married to the outcome, but just having your long-term goal and not worrying about the short-term big scores. And that's just, then things just happen automatically.
Love that. Thank you for correcting me there with the 100 million, 100,000. That's still a very audacious goal, and I know that you're going to achieve it. Super excited to have you here again, Philip. Now, tell us more about that mission. You want to inspire, create 100,000 millionaires by 2030 and beyond. What does that look like for you? What progress have you made thus far? How can the world of money help you? Just like pull us into the story, man.
Yeah, all right. So again, I'll try to keep it as succinct as I can. So I started with my first deal in 2016. When I came to New York in 2014, didn't have a Social Security work permit because, a long story. So I had to get a family member to get me a green card, which is a process that takes a long time. Can't work while it's going on. So it was very tough at first. But what I see is in a lot of people, there's always two sides to a coin, right? And the grass is always greener, but it depends on how we look at things. When people have hard circumstances or if they come from a tough background, all that really means is you're better prepared for when you actually get into the game of somewhere. Because they would say, oh, this person just had a hookup, this and that. Okay, but do they have the grit to persevere? Because you got to have the grit. If you see somebody, nobody made it all the way to the top, no matter what hookups they had, without having grit and character. So if you've had it rough, that just means you've better prepare. So that whole process with me coming from where I came from, then having to endure that makes me, and maybe it's not true, but in my head, I think it has made me extremely tough and nothing can break me. So that gives you a tremendous competitive advantage. Anyway, so I started that. That was 2014. 2015, in late 2015, I made the decision I wanted to get into real estate. April 2016, did my first deal. A year later, my dad specifically came over. I had asked him a few months before, we hadn't really talked in years. And he turned me down if he wanted to do a deal with me. I'm like, no, I don't. And why haven't we heard from you in years? You know, stuff like that. And so he came over, he saw what I was doing. He's like, okay, we got to do something together. So me, myself, my nephew, we started buying different land, different properties. And long story short, we started with $850,000 between the three of us. That grew to, as of right now, in less than 2 years, we actively have $57 million of real estate under development. So it just goes to show that there's nothing special about what it is that I do. It's just how immense value of real estate once you get into that game. So then we decided, we were at the point, we had started one of the projects. It's pretty much almost done right now. So we wanted to offer access to our real estate portfolio. I understand there's other people that offer, there are big companies that offer shares when they IPO and on the stock market and whatnot. but I wanted specific, and there was ways we could offer access to people who already had money. I wanted to get it to people who did not. So, and we did that with minimum buy-in of $500 starting in April. It was right in the middle of the pandemic, so it's not like we got any, we didn't get any media attention. There wasn't a lot of hype around it, but it's just people that follow my Instagram. They just dug around, they found it. And as of today, we're like 920,000, probably a little more, 920,000. And that's from 1,500 people that are first-time investors of color that are now real estate investors for the first time in a matter of months in the middle of a pandemic. So that number, 1,500, obviously it's small. We want to get it to 100,000. And again, one of the questions is right now it's $79 we're offering access to, because this is the number I came to New York with. They thought it would be cute to do it this way. I'm like, all right, go for it. So 1,500 is early. 100,000 is what I'm looking for. Actually, so I don't know if you can see it. So right now, this is like, this is my wall. It actually says 100,000 people and then 1.5 million people after that is the target. And that's the target. It's not there. It's the target. It's like, so it's 1,500 now. We're going to continue to do that. It's been going well. And the idea isn't that 500 will then transform into 1 million. That's a lottery ticket. But once you start, and you guys, I'm sure you guys know that, once you start investing, or once you maybe have a business or do a business project, you start looking at money differently. Most people look at money as, okay, how much stuff can I buy? They think it's like a balance that needs to be depleted for your enjoyment, when it's not. It's a balance that's supposed to be leveraged to give you security that then trickles down with like residual payments that you then enjoy, you know? And most people don't see that. So that's what I'm trying to do. Because one thing you have to understand also is we can blame a lot of things. I'm just going to shoot straight. We can blame a lot of things. There are systemic structures in place that aren't favorable. But think about it. If you're a basketball player, not everybody can be as tall as Shaq. There has to be some short point guards. They just have to learn how to shoot better, you know, and they have to work harder to get in the game and dominate, right? So that's how I look at that too. Yes, there are systemic structures in place, but there's nothing that prevents you from doing anything on an individual level. And if you look at the fact that more than $1 trillion travel through minority communities, Black communities specifically, and yet people say they're still poor, why do you think that is? If the most money is being spent, of course, the least wealth is going to be there. Meanwhile, the people who produce the stuff that money is being spent on, the wealth is going to be there. It's not rocket science. So all I'm really doing is offering access, allowing you to think about money differently. And once that happens, you're going to start to seek out you guys know this, other people with a similar mindset. Then it's going to trickle down and spread. Almost see how quick this virus is going to, if you take the emotion out of it, a virus is just something that spreads, right? Until it's everywhere. That's how I look at it, like planting these seeds, it just spread everywhere. So that's the idea. So in 10 years, look, say 100,000 people are a part of our portfolio in the next year or so. All these 100,000 people just do simple changes to their money habits, such as buying a property, buying a home, investing in stock and bonds, not spending as much. All that money going out over here, instead of coming over here and compounding, becoming a millionaire in the next 10 years, or at least owning $1 million in assets, it's literally an inevitability. It's an inevitability. You'd have to get run over for it not to happen. So it's not that I'm doing anything magical. It's just, if you swim against the tide in the water, right? You're not going to get anywhere. If you swim with it, you don't have to do anything, you know? Or riding uphill, running downhill, same thing. So, does it make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think one of the things that we're able to distill from what you said is like definitely coming from an international context. We have people calling in from all over the world. So it gives a testament to the fact that like that American dream is very much still alive. You can come to this country with whatever resource and dream you have and be able to, with grit and determination, character, work your way up and navigate through that. I want to remind everyone who's on the call to type your questions into the chat. We're going to check them at the end of our session to make sure that Philip has the chance to respond. But for our next question, I'm really curious about how you really zeroed in on that choice. on focusing on wealth creation and why that is such an important thing for millennials to be part of in terms of your life and entrepreneurial mission. Like for right now, why choose that?
Choose which one exactly?
Why have you focused on wealth creation specifically for millennials in terms of kind of what you're focused on?
Okay, all right. So there's a couple. There's a couple of layers to that question. Number one, I grew up with my grandmother, who was and my grandfather was part of this thing in South Africa called the ANC, which is a political party with Nelson Mandela. They were either locked up or thrown out. So United Nations, which ironically is right here, sent them to Denmark. So I lived with my grandmother, who then had very much that mindset of somebody who's inferior to Europeans. So that mindset, and that comes with a lot of just basic assumptions mentally that, number one, I don't have certain rights. Number two, I don't deserve wealth. Things like this, we have to struggle, all that other stuff. Then I eventually moved with my dad, who has a business. He had to help me unlearn that, which took years. And I realized just that mindset, I can recognize that in a lot of people who think wealth is not something that's for them. I totally get it. I totally get it. Okay. So that's number one. And two, because of what my dad had to help me unlearn, that's really the same thing I'm doing. So I'm really just a microcosm of, I'm the bat of the virus, so to speak. And now I'm just trying to infect everybody in a healthy way. But that's what it is, number one. Number two, the fact that me being here, the reason why, here's number two. Where I'm from also, where I was born in Denmark, there's no crime, there's no corruption, there's no poverty. These things go hand in hand. Whenever there's an abundance, whenever people don't have to worry about where to get their next meal, they don't have to tap into the ugly side of humanity. So that's obviously that's quite idealistic, perhaps even a bit naive, but anybody can have access to these things. And if you have that generational, like if you have assets, you have less time to worry about banalities. You have less time to worry about gossip, drama, who said what, and this is, you just don't have time for it because you're busy taking care of you and yours. So that's another thing, because I feel like it can help make the world a better place. And then thirdly here, a lot of the things in my estimation that you think come from racism isn't necessarily racism, it's classism. It just so happens that the lower class of the economic hierarchy here in North America is inhabited by people of color. So wherever there's rich and poor, there's always friction and fighting, and poor people get treated poorly. So it's just a matter of leaving that, and that's why I do it. That's really why I do it, and just bring people along for the ride. Good karma. And also, at one point, I may have a child that has to live in a that has to live in that. So that's just my contribution, you know?
I love how you're speaking about contributions and how the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to lead into the next question when I ask why, because entrepreneurship and financial education, if people even know it's a thing, it seems like it's not given the sense of urgency that it should. So it's two parts to this question. Why do you think that is? Because we know that money, quote unquote, makes the world go around. So like, why do you think that there's not a greater sense of urgency, especially in minority and millennial populations? Why do you think there's a lack of that urgency, as well as what do you think the generational impact of that lack of urgency is?
Okay, that's a question that really has three aspects to it. Do you want me to shoot straight, or do you want me to just give you the
shoot it straight to us. Give us the real deal. That's what we're here for.
What I'll give you, when people may not like this, but this is the absolute truth. So someone may not. A lot of times, people have a hard time emotionally coping with what reality is. So I just want to preface it by saying that. Number one, minority communities, usually, as Black communities specifically, we don't have idols in business like other communities have to have, where others can say, hey, we don't have anybody we can look up to in basketball. But our idols that we look up to that then influence are the real influencers. I'm not talking social media, I'm talking like influencers, right? That's in sports and entertainment. So we look up to guys like Michael Jordan, we look up to guys like Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Puff Daddy, and so on and so forth. Those aforementioned guys, there's a shift that's happening right now because they stopped talking about all the dysfunctional behavior, money behavior, like when you buy chains and all this other stuff, just wasting money. They're talking about businesses now, starting business. They're making that cool. So that's why you sense a shift happening. That's part of why you see a shift happening. Why people say, wait a minute, I want to be like a billionaire like Michael Jordan. I want to have my own label. I want to have my own business, stuff like that. That is becoming cool. That didn't exist before. There was nobody that, look, if you look at the like the Black communities in North America and the Caribbean, there's most talented people. But if you look at representation is so important because of what you believe is possible, right? And now you see guys like that. So that's why I think you're seeing a shift. What was the other part of your question? Can you repeat it again?
You basically answered it. I mean, and just like when that sense of urgency isn't there, when that representation isn't there.
All right, yes. Also, that was one part. The other part is when it comes to money, because of those embedded beliefs, for a lot of people don't feel like it's something that is worthy of us, so to speak. And there's this, they just think, of course, if you're struggling, so to speak, you think being a millionaire solves all your problems. But then again, you think being a millionaire is something that's reserved for a few lucky folks, right? So therefore, the concept of money becomes intimidating because you deep down unconsciously don't think you're worthy of it in the first place. So what has worked really well for me in my Instagram is that I talk about stuff, but it's not stuff you can't find on Google. But if you look at it on Google, it comes from a machine or from a middle-aged European guy. That does not resonate with you because you associate that with the person that has the wealth and you do not. So therefore, it does not resonate with you. It is as though he's speaking a different language. So when I do it and say the same stuff, then it's not as much the information I'm giving people, is that they see it coming from me and it makes sense. They're like, wait a minute, I can have it. And I think that's what makes it, it's really that shift that you need to have internally, because you can learn as much as you want. If you unconsciously don't think you can have it, then there's nothing that's going to happen. So that's the real shift that happens. So that's why there hasn't been an urgency, because people don't feel like they're worthy of it. And then also there hasn't been any representation that creates that resonance and relatability. And that's the shift that I'm seeing happening right now. And I think what we've done within the pandemic is empirically underscores that. It really is a great representation of that trend that I see. And another thing that I think stands to reason is for Gen Z and this next generation, this whole concept of colorism. There's always going to be people in power that are going to treat other people that don't have power poorly. And a lot of times it was tied to color. I don't even think that really necessarily is going to happen like that, because 90% of Gen Z are pro Black Lives Matter, because everybody else is forming their own groups. Like, man, what have I seen? I've seen some absurd stuff. People who are, I don't know, I struggle to think of something where people have like their own groups to complain about why they're being mistreated, where I'm like, I didn't even know this group existed. But but the thing is this, they almost look up to Black people as being the OGs of oppression. So there's not that antagonistic relationship anymore. It's just like everybody want to uplift each other. I guess we have it too good in life today, huh? So, but that's what I'm seeing.
No, I'm definitely tracking with you, Philip. So we can't miss the opportunity to talk about and highlight some of the really exciting work that you have going on. I really hope that you can tell us a little bit more about this real estate crowdfunding venture that you have going on, TempleOne, and tell us how it works. Break it down for us.
Well, TempleOne is it's actually in a historically Black neighborhood. And when I went through there, it was like watching a time lapse of gentrification. You saw all the indicators of quote unquote hood. Then I literally recorded a video of this a few years ago. I'd walk 60 seconds down one block and I'd take a right. Then I saw a white guy with a beard and a ponytail and a flannel shirt. Then I saw an Asian lady walking her dog. So I had to stop the guy. So I'm like, hey, what's this neighborhood like? And he's like, nah, I don't want to impersonate him. I could, but I don't want to. But and he was just telling me, yeah, it's like people get along here. Yeah, people don't bother anybody. So that was one thing that I saw. I was like, I got to get in here. But it is gentrifying stuff. Every time I go down there, there's new buildings that are coming up. So I figured it would be really cool. They always talk about people being, that whole gentrification thing, I think is some BS anyway, because if you live there, you had dips on the place and you could actually buy it. That said, if you don't have the awareness, then it won't happen. But to blame them becomes misplaced. That said, what I want to do is allow people to join in. So that's my property. It's right by Temple University, and people can buy in for $79. They can kickstart their wealth building careers, journeys, if you will, same way I did mine with $79. So that's it. That's my building. That's my building.
We're pulling it up right now so that our viewers.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm watching it right now. That's mine right there. Yeah.
And when it comes to how it works, do investors receive dividends? So what happens once somebody goes in with $7 or more? Like what?
If you go up, geez, okay. It's scrolling down a little too fast. It's really hard for me to say anything sensibly. But if you just go up to the top, you can always check it out if you want to. But it's really just buying into this property for, this is actually my first time seeing the page. I mean, I wrote it up. I haven't seen it published, so it looks pretty sweet, actually. I'm happy about this. Anyway, so you can buy in for $79. You can see this has been up since last week. So, so it's like 753 new people that came in and own a piece of it. So $79 is the minimum here. Usually I'd have it higher, but people wanted to see. I realized one thing. When I first put the deal out, I put it at a discount to value. Are we going down or?
Oh,
no, it just distracts me. So we started, the minimum was $500, which was, I understood later that, because I made it such a sweet deal, I put it at right now we have, like I said, 57 million. I put it at a $25 million valuation. And then, but I realized people didn't understand. They didn't care. They just wanted to be part of it because that shift had taken place and they wanted more of that feeling. So I'm like, okay. And they asked, will it be, if there would be a lower buy-in? It didn't make sense for me because I had it at 250, but people it just wasn't selling fast enough. And I was like, nah, 500 is a sweet, because people buy 2 shares, be 500, so like I'm turning 500 and people buy more. But I said down the road, I could put it down to 100, but that's sort of like the price point for someone's curiosity. So therefore I created this to offer access for $79. So that's what that is. So it's ownership in that property. It's just a form of a public offering, like selling shares in a property. Usually what people do is they raise money first and they go out and do something. They're raising money for an idea. Here, I'm giving access into something that exists, because it's not like we need, like I've self-funded the whole thing, so I don't need the money at all, actually, but it's give people access, own together, scale and grow together. Because at the point where it's actually beneficial to me is when it's like at scale, 100,000 people, because then we have the largest sum of capital to work with. In the real estate side of things, $1 million really isn't anything, but it's to give people ownership, and that's when the shift happens. That's what that is. Does it make sense?
So you've talked about how your pricing structure has changed, how you started at 5, then you dropped to 250, then you were like,
no, let me make this. I started 250 and I'm like, nah, this is no good. 500. Right. This and I wasn't going to go lower than that, but I said at one point I may do 100. So I said, okay, let's have it with this one here, because there's not as much available equity. There's not as much as available equity, so I can price it lower. If I put the other one at $100, it would take 1 million years. So to move the needle. So in this one here, it's that other one, I wanted it to sell out, and it would have. I wanted to sell out in 18 minutes, but pandemic, riots, and there was no news interest, so we couldn't promote it or anything like that. So it was just sort of there. So this is just people that found it. So, and the last day, like 120K.
Wow. So you mentioned the pandemic. How has the pandemic, do you think the pandemic has edified your business model? Has it forced you to look at things differently and kind of adjust? And in addition to that, at large in the real estate industry, how do you think the pandemic has affected the industry? Do you see other, influencers within real estate kind of adopting your model where they're dropping the price point? Like, what have you been seeing?
There's nobody else. There's only one other person that has done this at any type of meaningful level, someone in Houston. And other than that, we're pretty much first on this. We're not the first to do real estate crowdfunding, but we're the first to do it with this regulation, where usually people use this regulation to allow people to buy into their startup ideas at a very early stage before they're actually viable. So I wanted to use the same regulation that offered people to buy in, micro investors, first timers, to buy into something, but buy into something that was actually rock solid, literally. So that's what we did with that one. And so no one else is really doing that. I'm sure others will now when they've seen the proof of concept, which is cool. Actually, it's not even the Republic. They acquired a company called Compound that would sell access to condos. And they are doing exactly what I'm saying now, using this regulation to allow capital raises for real estate projects. And that's why we teamed up. So we want to do a lot more. We really want to scale this model. And I think my 2 projects are tremendous proof of concept that this model works. And I'd love to help others do the same thing. So that's really it. But how does it change my business model? It was actually, but again, it just goes back to my philosophy. A lot of people will always look for hardship where they can find it and use it as an excuse. See, a lot of people like to hide behind excuses. When you don't have any excuses, people don't like that because you can't blame anybody. So, pandemic, this and that. I choose to look at it differently. So you saw a lot of these businesses get hurt by this stuff. We had 2 construction loans lined up to build this thing. My monthly bills are like 130, 140K a month. Like this is what it is. And you need construction loans for that to do that. They got taken away because of the pandemic. I had a line of credit from overseas that was sweet, that was going to fund it. They said, we can't move it overseas now. I still got the bills. I still got 10 people running around building. They got to feed their kids. I can't go complain to anybody. And I can't tell my staff either, because if I start to panic, what are they going to do? Just got to buckle down, figure out how to make it happen. So pay it out of pocket, had to sell bonds. And then when you go on the other side, it's the thing, people always go chase the money, don't come to you. Then when you get on the other side and you get some calmness, then it all flows to you, and you can pick and choose. So we picked and we chose, and next thing you know, the people invest, and then we had a really good deal in construction loans, and now we have like a lot more people that want to come in and join us on an institutional level to really scale it. So all it does is it shows you what you're made of. That's all it does. Shows you what you're made of, and it just gives me tremendous confidence. Also, I am planning for an event like this every 3 years. So I want to make sure that whatever happens, there's like this account with just cash reserves of like 300,000-400,000 or like $1 million that we either use for, I assume something like this is going to happen every 3 years. And if it doesn't, then we invest it into the company and we pay the staff bonuses. One of those things, but that's how I plan to operate. So that's how it's changed. It's just changed my outlook and my approach on things. And the thing about this, if you have that mindset, all the bad things, the challenging things that happen to you, it's like a vaccine. You're now immune to it. And now it becomes your strength. Most people are afraid of that and they run from it. And even when they encounter it, they hide and duck and cower instead of just facing it head on. And now it becomes a superpower. You become immune to it. You know, I was thinking about like an hour ago, like how running a business can have a lot of heartbreaks. Like the first time someone would, I remember years ago when I was like a manager I was running an editorial team and one quit. And I was like, if someone broke up with you, was a new excuse me, a new emotion. And then you learn a lot of these new emotions that all feel like somebody dumps you. And it doesn't have to be that somebody leaves. It could be a deal doesn't come together or something happens. Like it's that similar powerful emotion. But once you have it, it doesn't happen again because you're immune to it if you just process it correctly. That's what it's done for me.
Wow, I think that is so brilliant. And I hope everybody on the line is taking notes of this about how to shift our mindsets to just be adaptable to these
That's exactly what it is.
times, and just being able to, build up that battle armor, build up that skill set to be able to weather all of these things, and know that there are more to come in the next 3 to 4 years. These things repeat themselves.
That's right.
We definitely also have to know, when does TempleOne open for occupancy? We want to know what's going on and how everything has developed.
Well, we should be done in November. I want to start pre-leasing. As soon as I finish with the Republic, I'm going to start the marketing on it. We're going to do it a little differently. I fully expect that we're going to set records. I know how these things go. You shoot high and then sometimes it's a little below, but even my little below is enough to set records down there. We have some incredible things in the works. I'm teaming up with a company here from New York. It's like the fastest growing real estate tech brokerage. They've been killing it in Brooklyn with co-living, meaning that they create these shared units that have like technology and these things. So if you look at that one there, most people think of student housing as like, okay, let's create some apartments, just throw a bunch of kids in there. Nah, we're gonna create something else, like an experience, and we're gonna infuse it with the vibration of success, meaning that everything you see around you is gonna fuel that atmosphere, that energy of everything that I am and anybody that I deal with, and so it's just gonna be like it's gonna be like a breeding farm for winners. So and then we're gonna start leasing that out. And we were before pandemic. I wanted to lease it out with VR. I wanted to throw parties and then have people like sign leases right there after going through with the VR goggles. Things happen. We weren't able to do that. We're going to do that for the one across the street. We're building another one directly across the street. Same thing. So I'm going to do it for that, which would be even better because they can see phase one is done. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And November should be finished, and we're going to start marketing. You're going to see all sorts. I'm taking out billboards all over campus, front page of the newspaper for the rest of the semester. All sorts of wild stuff on social media. We're gonna make grown-ups want to live there. So that's what it is.
I love it. That sounds incredible. I know you've been dropping gems throughout our entire session, but I want to bring some attention to an article you wrote on Entrepreneur, and it was entitled "Real Estate's Best Kept Secret: This Loophole is going to change how you invest." I haven't read that article. I want you to just give us a little insight to some of the genius that you dropped in that article as well.
But I don't want to claim the genius in the article, perhaps with the phrases and the way the words were put together, perhaps, but it was something I learned from a tax expert. So essentially, real estate investing, did you guys hear when they said Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes and doesn't want to show his tax returns, and he was like, I don't care if I don't pay anything. These are the rules. You should take it up with the rules. I'm just taking advantage of the rules, which is, it is what it is. But it's not just, it's like real estate developers don't really pay taxes for a number of reasons. Number one, you can write off, even though a property goes up in value, there's something in accounting called straight line depreciation, meaning that when you buy, you buy a laptop or iPhone, it drops in value. If you were to buy it now and sell it to your friend next year, it would be for less than what you bought it for. That's called depreciation. That loss in value, you can write it off. That exists for real estate, even though the value goes up, but they say the materials of the building technically depreciate. You can write it off your income. Another thing, when you sell a property, there's something called a 1031 exchange. If you sell a property, say you bought it for $1 million, you sell it for $2 million. That's $1 million in capital gains, like the profits, right? You're supposed to pay taxes on that. That's called capital gains tax. However, if you use what's called a 1031 exchange, you can take that $1 million, and if you buy another property that's the same size or bigger, you can use it tax-free, so you can continue to not pay taxes on that and continue to leverage it, right? Now, this that I wrote about is something that's called a 721 exchange, because the limitations of because you have to find like a new property in 45 days. So that puts you under pressure to find something quickly, which means you might have to overpay for something. With the 721 exchange, you can actually take that $1 million and put it into 10 different funds. And funds invest in multiple pieces of real estate, so you get the diversification, a better chance of success, and now that $1 million grows into 3 million, 2-3 million in a number of 3 years, and in like 2-3 years or whatever. And that's what the article is about.
Oh my gosh, so good, so good.
Doesn't make sense.
It makes sense to me. I hope it's making sense to you guys. Make sure that you're dropping any questions that you have in the chat, anything you want to ask Philip. Please put the questions in the chat. We're going to open it up to the audience here shortly. But since I see that you're really good at answering my complex 2-question and 1 questions.
I'm glad you're aware, actually, because I'm like, this is an intelligent young man who's asking questions almost like a professional, but they have layers to them. Okay, cool. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dude, I'm glad you're interpreting it that way, because sometimes I'm like, my mind is going so many different places. Yes. But Delphina, we see that you're interested. Please let us know what interests you about this conversation and how Philip can help you along your journey. So the question is, well, first, let me preface by saying you told us about how you've had to change your mindset over time. You've had to learn some things from your father, and you've been through your
Okay,
own
bad.
experience.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for those watching who also know that they need to evolve in their mindset? And considering that you are where you are right now, and yes, you have, your journey is going to continue, so you're going to continue to learn more. But what advice would you have for your younger self, in addition to the people who might not be where you are right now? How can they start evolving their mindset? What steps do they need to start taking if they're like, man, this is awesome information, I need to head in this direction?
Life is funny from the standpoint. Life is funny from the standpoint that it's incredibly simple, but everything we don't have, we think it requires some sort of maze or puzzle to solve to get it, when everything is a function of systems. If you hang around obese people, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with you?
You gonna get big real quick.
Okay, if you hang out with fit people, same thing. You hang out with poor people, on it goes, right? And one thing that I've learned, it's not that I understand it intuitively, but I have come to understand it in a way that I can articulate. And that is, you have to trigger the law of expectancy in your favor. What that means is, when people that have these great ideas, can make all this money and this and that, and they constantly fail, or people have these things and they just don't work out. The reason they don't work out is, what is your baseline expectancy? Unconsciously, what is it that you're doing that you expect for the outcome to be? If you go to the store, your expectancy is you make it to the store, you come back, or anything that you do that you've done before, you just have the totality of you expects for that outcome to happen. All right, so there's two ways you can activate. So if that's not there, it's always going to fail. And then most people are not going to realize that is what is happening, and then they blame everything else. Okay, so there's two ways you can do that. One, which is the hardest part, which is you just have to go through the grunt work and take a lot of fall flat on your face a lot of times, and just learn little by little by little, and sequentially build upon your expectancy until you get to where you're going. That's one thing. I wouldn't recommend that. I've taken that road. I'm a very tough guy, but that is like mentally. I wouldn't recommend that. That stuff will break you if you're not tough. But at the same time, I would encourage somebody to dig in and develop the toughness themselves. That's one thing. Number two thing, which is what I would really, really recommend, is find yourself around others. If there's something you want to accomplish, find yourself around others where their expectancy is that which you choose to, that you want to pursue. Because remember the thing, you're around obese people, you become fat, this and that and the other. You're around them, that expectancy trickles down to you, because you've seen it become successful with these people that are just like you, 2 arms, 2 feet, have to breathe, have to sleep 24 hours in a day, right? So that's how, and just consistently do that. A perfect example of that is Jay-Z. If you look at his trajectory, there's nothing particularly complex about the guy. He started out saying, I want to be the best rapper in my neighborhood. So he sought out the best rapper in his neighborhood, even took his name from him. Then he's like, I want to be the best rapper in New York. Then he ditched that guy and started hanging out with LL Cool J and Busta Rhymes and Biggie Smalls and them. And he said, I want to be the best in the country. And then he said, I want to have a business. So him and his friend, they started a clothing line, sold for like $100 million. Then he's like, I want to do something else. I want to control the record label. So he ditched that guy, left the guy behind, because he was stuck here. And he consistently just leveled up and got around the people where it just became an unconscious expectancy of him to succeed in the manner that he wanted to. He didn't just start with being somebody in Brooklyn and say, hey, I want to own a piece of the Nets. He would have been a bitter man at 60, talking about how the white man was out to get him and he never got a fair shake. You know, that's really what it is. So that's what I would recommend. I understood my strengths. If I look back, I'm really good at creating opportunity, but I didn't know what to do with it once I was there, because I didn't have the expectancy of really truly thinking I could do anything with it. So you just have to create those circumstances for yourself. And then, like, a lot of times, even with my Instagram, so my nephew, my co-founder, he's like a soccer star. And I had said to him, I need to start marketing our property. Can you help me get to 10,000 followers? His audience is just a bunch of teenagers. I want to say just a bunch. There's no way they can, they're not students in Philadelphia, is what I'm trying to say. And I said, hey, I need you to pick me up, please. He's like, I mean, I can, but you're already there. I said, what do you mean? You're already there. I was like, okay. So I started putting out videos. My first video, somebody picked it up, went viral with 300,000 views. Inside days, I had 10,000 followers. And this was in April. Now I have 53,000 just from that. Then I hit it back and showed him. I was like, look. He's like, you're crazy. I said, then you told me? He's like, yeah, I know, but it's still crazy. I'm like, and he, ironically, a month before, he had just made one of the biggest transfers in soccer sports history, where they're like, it was sensational because he was with a piece of crap team and he got with the best team in the entire world, biggest sports franchise in the world. So I'm like, but look at you. So it's the same thing. And it's just like that created the expectancy. And next thing you know, I know that my stuff will reach people. I didn't know that before. So I wasn't able to power through that until he like said that to me. And I was like, it clicked. I'm like, okay, huh. And it went from there. So you always got to, that's what I would tell my younger self or anybody. If you're around, whatever you're around, look at that. And if your goal is too far from that, you're going to fail. You're just going to fail. You're just going to fail. Nothing will, there's literally nothing. I'm telling you, divine intervention will not help you. Because the divine intervention is you fail until you wake up and realize you get away from your environment. And then but once you get around that, because that's the divine inflow, that vibration, that's like the expectancy, that's because it travels through your unconscious and out and manifests into the world. I'm not trying to be like, oh, focus, but it's the reality. Get around people who are doing what you're doing. Remember the saying, you become an average of the five people you spend the most time with. So you just got to have your starting five in order. And you can't be emotional about it. This is what it is. Are we going over?
So good, man. I could sit here and talk to you all day, but yeah, we are gonna wrap it up right now. Philip, thank you so much for being here, man. Can you please let the people know how they can follow you on social media and continue to stay in contact?
Yeah, for sure. On Instagram, it is YFWTB, and on Facebook, it's Real Estate Wealth Hacking, just one word, and just type it in and it comes up. A lot of people friend me on Facebook. I categorically reject them because it's only my family and my friends from back home. It's like a European thing. So I just feel like I just mass ignore. But on the Facebook page, I'm just as active because that's sort of like my life over here. That's old life. I don't use that Facebook, so don't go to that one. But Real Estate Wealth Hacking and YFWTB.
Gotcha. All right. Sorry, I was putting that in my Facebook, so I had it. Real Estate Wealth Hacking. All right. So thank you again, Philip, so much for being here. We're going to stay in contact with you. Hope you have a blessed rest of your day. More blessings with Temple. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise, man. You got me over here fired up. Yeah, wisdom, dude. Go on and accept it. Also, make sure, guys, to follow us on social media at The World of Money, as well as worldofmoney.org. Make sure you reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns you might have as well. And make sure to tune in September. We're going to continue with these town halls. We'll continue to take your questions and continue to have really exciting, fun speakers to share all of their wisdom and expertise. But if we don't have any further questions, we're going to wrap it up and hope you guys have a great one. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.